Hello, hello. Welcome. We're going to start standing today. I'm inviting you to come sideways on your mat in a nice comfortable squat and begin. Inhaling, sweeping out and up. You might straighten the legs. Exhaling, let it all come down. Again, inhaling, sweeping out and up. And if you'd like, sighing through the mouth. Again, we're going to keep this going, and I encourage you in that sighing breath to let go of anything that doesn't feel fresh, doesn't feel now, doesn't feel supportive. Usually any thoughts that we have about the future or the past can be a little de-energizing, especially if they're worry-oriented. But even sometimes pleasureful things we're looking forward to, or reminiscences, can take us out of what's available in this moment. To be awake to our body, to what our hearts have to say, to the amazing sounds around us. I have some new bovine neighbors in the pasture right over there. So if you hear some fun sounds all of a sudden, that's my new yoga partnership out there, the bovines. They're eating apples off the branches, and it's been really fun to watch them. Okay, a few more. Is there more? Inhale, exhaling. Close your eyes if you're willing to be a little unstable, but come inward. Is there more? Marvelous. Bringing your hands to your heart a moment, and your feet can be kind of anywhere between straight forward, a little out. And I just want us to really wake up to the very ends of our body, okay? So we're going to be pushing into the earth. I'm not here just by virtue of gravity or my sticky mat. And I want to firmly, not like but firmly engage my hands into one another. And as I'm doing this, I'm anchoring my shoulder heads down the back. And if I'm doing it right, I should feel some effort, some activation there in the lat muscles, maybe even into the intercostals and ribs. And I'm going to check in with my neck and invite it to be soft. So I'm interested in cultivating in my body a powerfulness and awakenedness, but that isn't striving or stress. And so I'm going to check in with my eyebrows, that they're soft, maybe my lips making a soft smile, light connection tip of the tongue, soft ujjayi throat contraction, making that sound of wind in the trees or waves. I'm going to ask you to take about 3 more breaths, finding the power and maintaining or refinding that soft peacefulness in all those other parts. Asking of the inhale and the exhale, is there more? Can you bring breath into both your front and back body? Maybe find a little bit of that kind of tailbone tuck so that we're not arching and sticking that tailbone way out. Instead, we want to be nicely neutral. All right. On your next inhale, push the earth away, sweep out and up, and draw the pelvis forward, keeping your head either neutral or your choice. You can reach up through the chin. It's not the same as dropping the head back. So we stay long through the back of the neck as well as reaching through the front. And then see if you can just reach a little bit more, like you're kind of slowly climbing a rope or a tree. Again, rooting and reaching, engaging in power, but in a way that feels just peaceful, beautiful. And release, forward fold. Nice little ragdoll, meaning the knees are bent. And let the head go with gravity. Let that spine decompress anything it's been holding on to. We're going to come into some cow-cat movements here. And if being this far to the floor with your hands is just too much for you, remember you can go hands to thighs, all right? Same basic movement. Inhale, tailbone back, heart draws forward. And make sure you're drawing the shoulder blades again down the back. Exhaling, belly to spine, pushing the earth away. Again, inhaling, tailbone to heart reaching. Remember, I'm not compressing the back of the neck, trying to look forward. I'm just feeling that beautiful elongation of the spine. And of course, you're doing this to your breath rhythm, which might be faster or slower than mine. Your job is to just stay with it and be curious, asking, is there more? More inhale, more exhale. Where am I feeling the breath? One more cow-cat movement. And then we're going to do a little rotation. And again, this could be done with your hand on a block or again, hands on the thighs. So either hand's on the floor. I'm going to plant the left hand. Inhale, reaching open through the right, following with my head and vision as much feels good. Exhaling and returning. And then we'll inhale and open with the left arm to the sky. So again, this could be getting done higher up on the thighs. Let's do one more. Each side we're going to hold in each one for a breath. So I'm going to take my right arm up, but then invite it around onto my lower back. So it's kind of a nice little partial bind as we consider it. And then just see if you can kind of slide your hand further down that left hip towards the left thigh. You might even get a nice little clunk as your spine lets go sometimes there. And release. Okay. Other side. And it's really important that we're slowly rotating that arm and moving and checking in with the shoulders. So if you feel any kind of awkward pull, then you back off. And again, I'm sliding my hand down, this time the right hip, towards that right thigh. And as I'm ready, slowly unwinding. And a nice deep, deep squat here. I've got my butt really low. And then taking the hands behind for Yoga Mudra. So a reminder that if this feels better to you standing, go for it. Also, in either position, if you feel that you just can't get those shoulder heads to rotate down and straighten the arms, just taking a hold of a bandana, a sock, a scarf, a strap, whatever could be handy that isn't stretchy. And that's allowing you more freedom to get that movement. And what I love about getting into that shoulder position is now as you pump a little bit, this is called Yoga Mudra. This is the name of this hand position with the fingers intertwined. But this position allows us to kind of massage all the connections around the shoulder blade. So, a lot of us get kind of stuck in a position with the trap muscle and the shoulder blades, and that area between them is so tight, right? You just wish someone would come along and rub it. Well, this is kind of your massage that you're giving yourself. As you move the hands away from the butt and return them, the shoulder blade is getting some movement. You always want to go nice and slow. If you feel anything kind of pinchy or icky up in here, then you want to back off, always, always, all right? And you're trying not to tighten the neck. This is all happening, of course, in the power of the lower body and the core, but then that arm movement. Last one, see if you can hold with the hands off the butt and gather a big inhale into your chest. Again, you might be in forward fold here. I'm showing the standing version. And release. Lovely. We're going to bring our arms one at a time around the front for our thread the needle, as we call it. So I'm going to bring the right arm in front, left hand comes to the elbow, and I'm pressing in. And I want to make sure that this shoulder is anchored. It's not hunched up at all. And as I press my hand and elbow in, if I press my right hand kind of away so that my arm is straight, I'm generally going to get a better stretch through here. It's a deltoid. You might be able to feel it again right into that shoulder blade kind of trap connection where so many of us are tight. And if you'd like, take it down to the left a little. So I'm just creating kind of a side bend. And that'll direct breath even more into that right side. And if I kind of pull that right arm towards the left, that'll deepen the rib stretch. And in your own time, release, make any little kind of counter movements, organic movements. And let's find the other side. Left arm comes across, again, shoulder anchored, and draw in. So even as I'm focusing on my upper body here, I've got a nice, again, root. My knees are bent. This is a nice kind of athletic stance. I'm not just standing there with my legs locked. Got my pelvis tucked a little so I can, again, feel those glutes working. We're doing some fun stuff today that'll really activate that part of the body. And again, if you'd like to add a little movement down to the right, deepening the breath. I always like to say the breath is our change agent. It changes the pose and it really changes what we're able to get from it. It also often deepens our awareness of our body. The breath stretch is often what makes us go, oh, I didn't know I was tight there, or makes us be able to be stronger and contract something there. All right, and release. Let's just do a little shoulder rolling here. And then we're going to take the hands around the neck. And I'm just putting it in kind of a collar. I'm not intertwining or cranking or anything. I'm letting the hands just support the main part of the neck so that I can slowly begin to move the head. It's almost like a rim of a bowl, and you're kind of moving the head around that rim. And what's lovely about this supportive position is that it allows this connection, this sort of occipital ridge to neck area that is so fraught with tension because it's like holding your head on, right? It gives it a safe place to let go. You're like, with your hands, you're like, I've got my head. And so as you're exploring, keep that support, but you could also begin to add a little tractioning. So I might take my right hand, for example, and kind of press up, or my left hand and press up against that occipital ridge. And the other thing I like to do once I've done that is to then change my angle of my head a little. So I might like reach the chin up a little or down a little. And so that's going to bring that neck stretch into a slightly different place. And wherever you are, you're breathing, you're noticing this amazing body that you're in with all of the sensations. Sometimes I'm stunned by the sheer quantity of tension that my body is holding and experiencing, and yet somehow not, screaming at me all day. So it always allows me to be kind of in awe of the body and appreciative that it's performing so well in spite of all the tightness or the soreness that's also there. All right, when that's done, let's roll out wrists. Okay, so we're gonna, like I said, do some deep activation of this part of the body. And we're gonna do, first, it's kind of a chair pose. And so you could be right towards the front of the mat, if you will, feet usually, about 6 to 8 inches apart, somewhere in there. You don't want them a lot wider than the hips. They should be in line with the hips. And as I come into chair, I want to, again, have that lower belly connected so that I'm not sticking the butt out behind. I should feel really strong and stable here as I kind of slide my butt down into the chair. And I'm going to have you pause. And I'm going to put my hands right here on the outside of my hips and thighs, kind of IT band area. And what I'd like you to do is to engage as if you're trying to push your feet sideways. You're not doing it. You're not moving your legs. I'm simply engaging and pushing out like I'm trying to stretch my yoga mat. And I want to make sure that my knees are staying right over the feet. They're not angling in or out. So nice and stable. And I'm pushing and releasing. And so try that a few times and see if you can feel all the lighting up that's happening in the side and probably the back of the leg a little bit, kind of to that ham and into the glute. All right, and come up and relax it. You can shake that out. So if you're not feeling anything, you're just probably not pressing or tractioning hard enough. And what's really fun about this tractioning is that we are waking up and using muscles that are actually already quite tight on us, but are often kind of rigidly tight. We want them to become much more elastic. So we're playing with that today in a number of ways. So let's do that again, and this time we're going to add up and down movement. If you'd like, you could have your hands again in that kind of awake prayer position with the palms pressing firmly, not aggressively, firmly into one another, and we can keep that neck soft. So as you're ready, nice neutral spine, kind of tuck that tailbone a little bit if it's hard for you to find the neutral. and begin to slide down. Now hold, do that outward tractioning, and come up and down a little bit right here, holding the traction. And being curious what you're feeling in the body, maybe some differences side to side. Good. Last one. Marvelous. And as you are ready, my friends, inhale, root and rise, glutes forward. Exhaling, ragdoll. Good. And hold here with me if you would, and enjoy the stretch through the back of the legs. You can always have the hands wrapped around opposite bicep, or if this is hard on your back, putting them on the knees. But again, we're going to kind of get into this side body, this time by kind of wagging my hips and letting my torso kind of move with it, like just something kind of waving in the breeze. And inhaling, please extend halfway up, hands on shin bones. Nice long back of the neck. Exhaling, drop into chair. And this time just a regular old chair pose. It'll feel really easy probably after what we've done. Although I'm also hoping you will feel your glutes doing more because we woke them up. So I can feel mine right there. Good. Inhaling, root and rise. Exhaling, prayer hands. So I'm inviting you now in a kind of a seated pigeon stretch almost. And if doing it standing is too much of a challenge balance-wise, it is for a lot of us, then I'd recommend just finding something nearby to sit upon. And especially if you're not doing, yoga or pigeon stretching every day, I think doing a supported seat versus mid-float is going to be better today. So you cross your right ankle onto your left thigh. And the nice thing about this seated version is you're so stable. So I'm kind of flapping my right leg up and down, up and down, up and down. And wonderfully, I'm going to go deeper. I'm going to fold my torso towards the calf. And I say wonderfully because I feel like it gets us that really extra edge stretch into the hip, the glute. You got it. And come up when you're ready. Never let me rush you. When you get into something good, then that's your treasure. You stay there on the treasure hunt until you're ready to come out. So again, I'm going to kind of flap that knee up and down, up and down, up and down. And then as I'm ready, again, nice neutral spine. So my low abdomen's tucking in here and I'm folding forward. Notice that I'm not rounding over this project. I'm reaching my heart forward, and that's actually going to give me a better stretch into the hip without any low back strain or neck strain. Using your core more than your arms, so I'm applying a little pressure with the torso towards the thigh. I'm just providing a little extra support with the arms, but I'm kind of using my abdominal strength to press and release a little bit. Deep breath. I've got this top foot flexed always to stabilize the knee. And let's uncross rather. And you can take the feet wide and do kind of a windshield wiper, and many of you are familiar with this. We do it when we're on our backs too. Stay in your position, either seated on an object or again, you might be standing. And again, it's a lot harder from a balance standpoint standing, but some of you might really enjoy that challenge today. So see what you think. And as you're ready, again, kind of do your fold. So I've got right ankle onto left thigh this time. And then I'm going to add a little twist. So I'm going to rotate my chest a little towards that right knee. And this will just direct the stretch a little differently. I'm also going to send my torso towards that leg, although as you can see, the balance makes doing so consistently challenging. So I'm just showing you this so you could get a sense of what I'm talking about. And you might be opting for the seated version. Good. And coming up. What's fun about the balancing part, in addition to just the balance, is noticing all the muscles that light up to hold us. It's a lot of those same muscles that we're waking up with our tractioning. So we're here stretching them and using them. All right, so as I'm ready, I'm crossing left ankle to right thigh, and I've got my foot flexed. Again, that stabilizes this knee. I'm hinging forward, and then I'm going to rotate my chest a little towards that left knee. Deep breath, saying hello to the edge of your stretch. It should be intense. And when you're ready, come on out. All right, we're gonna come onto the mat, feet wide in a straddle, and go side to side. Nice pushing with each foot. So this is kind of some of the same muscles that we were using during that tractioning, but much less intense, if you will, and legs wider, of course. At any point, see if you can go lower. Maybe bring those hands on down towards the mat. You could even just keep them on the shins, or again, you might be up here. If you have your hands on the mat, invitation to really let the spine decompress, let the head go. And please hold to one side for a couple of breaths. Deep, deep breath, sending breath into the pelvis, noticing what's there. Making sure that the foot of the straightening leg is not coming away from the mat. It's pushing and rooting. Again, it's like you're trying to stretch your yoga mat. And I'm going to come around to the front of the mat to step back to my downward facing dog. And if that's not comfortable for you, then of course come on upright and then maybe down to your hands and knees for table. Otherwise, come towards the front of the mat. Make sure that right hip bone's back, left hip bone forward. You're on the ball of the back foot. And see if you can lift that right foot rather than drag it. It's what I call reduce the swoosh. So I'm pushing kind of into my cat back to bring my knee towards my chest. And that puts me into my core and reduces the swoosh. All right, find your dog. So intelligent hands, I'm pushing through the pad of the thumb and the index finger. Fingers are wide. And I'm just pedaling and playing. I'm going to take my feet out wide. And this brings the stretch not only into different parts of the leg, but I can also accentuate it into the torso. So as I bend my right knee, I'm going to press my chest towards the right edge of the mat. And that brings me a wonderful stretch kind of through those intercostals. And I'm going to do the same thing now, bending the left knee, pressing my chest towards that left edge of the mat and enjoying that right body stretch. Good. And as you're ready, bend the knees, bring them wide, bring the feet in together and settle into your child's pose. Commit to being very soft here for a few breaths. And that's really difficult for a lot of us. We tend to anticipate the next thing or the next place we're going. So if you can just close your eyes, really tune in to your breath. And then I'm going to invite us in a chest stretch here. This could be done still with the hips back in child's pose. You'll also have the option if you want to play with coming a little forward towards puppy. But it's a little bit different than puppy in the sense that I'm going to have my hands out wider, okay? So instead of having them straight forward, I'm going to have them out kind of in a little bit of a V. And so I want to take my left chest towards the floor as I'm rotating my right chest open a little towards the wall. Breathing, and some of us might feel a stretch all the way down into the left elbow or forearm, especially if you've been doing a lot of lifting and carrying and projects and stuff. And now tilting that right chest towards the floor. This could also be done against the wall, so if being on your knees is just not good for you, or it's just not good today, that's an option too. And when you are ready to come up, please tuck the tailbone. So there's really no strain on the arms. They're not the ones doing the work. And that's really, really important. All right. Bring those knees in. And I'm just going to give each leg kind of a shakeout because it's kind of a lot being in that position so long. You know, our body almost always wants opposite shapes. So we're going to come into some lunging. I'm going to do a knee down lunge. So I'm going to come up on my knees and bring the right foot forward. If being on that left knee is bothersome, then you would just come onto the ball of the back foot. But I want you to notice, please, that my hips are forward of that back knee. I'm not right over the knee. So you've got to kind of just keep scooching and deepening that right foot forward. And my left knee does not appreciate the pressure, so I'm going to come up to crescent lunge. But in both versions of the pose, I'm going to ask you to kind of pulse a little bit. So kind of back off of the edge and head towards it. And back off and head towards it. One more. And then if you can, holding your deepest forward edge of hips, then send the ribs forward and up. We focused on this a lot in last week's class, how to do a back bend, that you're actually pressing forward. So find that beautiful open arc of the body. And then we'll exhale, release back, either to table or dog, your choice. And you can take that leg and shake it out, etc. And then we're gonna take the left foot forward into either our knee down lunge, or if the floor knee again is not happy there, you come into your crescent lunge. As I'm exploring, it's really valuable here to have the hip bones straight forward. If I'm kind of cocking it open, I'm not going to be getting the same stretch that mechanically our body really, really needs. This gets beautifully into our hip flexors and quads and so on. And as you're ready, hold in your edge. Again, really taking good care of the neck. And so in your case, that may mean you don't want to reach up through the chin, but maybe you do want to still create that arc through the body. If it bothers your low back, then just stay neutral without the back bend. Deep breath. Good. And we're going to release out. I'm going to kind of love up that left leg, give it a shake, etc. And we're going to come all the way to our belly for pre-bow bow. So remember, of course, there's the standing version of the quad stretch that you can do if your body does not like this position. Otherwise, what I'm going to say is a very helpful way to get into this pose that really takes good care of your low back is to bring one forearm in front so that it's kind of propping my torso up. And then I'm going to anchor my butt cheeks here before I reach back for that other ankle. I'm going to flare those yoga toes, and I'm going to make sure that in grabbing the ankle that my knee didn't go way out to the side or even a little bit out. And one way to check that is to imagine you're squeezing something between your thighs. All right, I'm going to add the other ankle. So now I've got the pelvis anchored, and so it should be fairly easy for me to safely reach back with that other arm. Yoga toes flaring open away from the ball of the foot. And now I've got that same little bit of shoulder blade sandwich that I had in Yoga Mudra. And it feels really good. I'm going to emphasize that by inhaling and pressing the ankles into the hands into bow. Exhaling, you always want to soften a little bit. Press those ankles back. Nice long neck. One more. And this works the quads really beautifully. Go ahead and release. And either rest with your head to the side, or if you prefer, child's pose. Either one. And so what I've noticed over time with bow pose is that occasionally I'll feel like a pull at one of my knee joints. And that tells me that something's off. One side's way too tight or it's pulling things out of alignment. So it should never hurt your joints. You should just feel good muscular activity, basically, is what we're looking for. All right, we're going to come on into our forearm plank. So when you are ready, shoulder heads anchoring down the back. Tuck those toes under. And remember, we really want to tuck our tailbone. This is what's going to give us core strength. If I'm just kind of flopping and asking my body to heave itself up, it's really hard. So I want to tuck the tailbone. I'm squeezing my glutes. I'm going to press my thigh bones towards the sky. So by the time I kind of press my torso off the floor, it's pretty easy. If it's feeling too much, drop the knees and relax the feet. And just do a nice knee down version. If you'd like a little more intensity, walk those elbows forward. And when I say intensity, it should be at your core, making it quiver, not at the shoulder joints or the low back, the neck. It's going to do a little bit of work because it's holding your heavy head, but it shouldn't be straining. See if you can do 3 more breaths. Soft tongue, soft gaze. One more if you can. And release. Turn your head to the side. I often find that these kinds of held postures give us a chance actually to release tension. Even though it feels like we're building it, sometimes that deep squeezing and engagement of the body can be just wonderful. And you come out and you're like, oh, So adding a sighing breath is often marvelous. We're going to do a little cobra work here. And so cobra, the key pieces are really the same as upward dog. Engaging the glutes down, and then I want no wings, no shrugs. So my shoulder heads are anchored, elbows are in, then place the hands. That's one way to make sure you don't end up with the hands too far forward and kind of that wings your arms out. So I'm going to engage down and in, then plant. Engage the pelvis, and we're going to pulse in and out of cobra. As you inhale, think about drawing your hands back like you're kind of tractioning, and drawing your head forward like you want to pull the top of your head off the yoga mat. And then as you're ready, progressively think about pulling the heart forward. Inhaling, cobra, and exhaling. Returning either a little bit or resettling, up to you. And long back of the neck. I'm not looking forward. You can imagine that you're reading a beautiful little love poem right below your nose. And then at some point, if it feels good and inspired, as you come into your cobra, you might press a little with the hands, and drawing the heart forward still, shoulders down, elbows in. We call that a king cobra. It's a wonderful stretch for the front of the body, but only if you're anchoring the pelvis, drawing the heart forward, breathing deeply. See if you've got one more. And then your choice, moving back to either child's pose or downward facing dog. Downward facing dog can be used as a resting pose, if you will, once you're rather comfortable with it and if it's not bothering shoulders and so on. Please take a few soft breaths, slowing it down. And then we're going to come into a slow flow, little dog series. So if you're familiar with it, of course, just flow on through your version. If this is somewhat new, I invite you always inhale plank and then drop your knees, keeping a tucked tailbone. So that as I exhale and bend my elbows for chaturanga, again, I should feel strong. I shouldn't feel like I'm just swagging to the floor. In fact, I'm going to tuck my tailbone like I'm in a nice cat back. And I should feel that my nose is actually preceding my hips. And I'm going to settle my hips to the floor eventually for cobra. Exhaling, downward facing dog. And we're going to find the front of the mat. So you might take 1 foot at a time forward, or you could always hop. Inhale, root and rise. Exhaling, prayer hands. Pause, find that balance of engagement, hand to hand, feet to earth, and then the softness in the neck and the face and the throat and so on. We're going to play with train tracks again today. I always get really great feedback from people that this makes a difference in their body. So I invite you to notice if you feel some interesting stuff. Come back and practice this again tomorrow. And it's really fun to see how fast it can change our bodies in really significant ways. So I'm going to have hands on hips because this is going to help me be aware of my hip bones, which again, at no point do I want the hip bones steering, even subtly. So I'm going to steer them directly forward. I'm going to check that my feet are directly forward. And this is really primary in this pose, that they start forward and then we keep finding that straight position. So as you're ready, you're just going to step back with your right foot onto the ball of the foot. Notice I didn't take a very big step. It's just a nice little, maybe 1.5 feet or something. And as I lay my right heel down, I want to imagine that I'm laying it, returning it to that kind of track, like a train track or a skiing track. And so I'm going to think about setting that right heel down, what I think is straight back, checking my hip bones are forward, and I'm going to hinge forward to look. And if you notice that it's not straight, then you're going to kick that right heel out until it is, and come back up and hold. And I'd like you to do a couple of things here. One is, I first want you to traction. So I'm going to imagine that I'm shortening my yoga mat by using my feet to make it shorter. And then relax a little bit more into this pose. All right, so notice if you're feeling any kind of stretch in the back leg, in the calf or the ham. And if you're kind of like, nah, not feeling much, See if you can scooch your left foot forward. Sometimes even just a few inches will do it. So now I can feel that both in my right calf, and I can also feel it a little bit into my right hip and hip flexor here at the front. As you're holding there, think about, again, pushing into the earth with the feet and rising up through the heart. You might even add the arms. Deepen the breath. Keep thinking about sending that right thigh bone back. And then release the hands to the hips, bend the front knee to step forward. And if that right leg feels a little rubbery, good job. So find both feet straight again, hands on hips, left foot steps back into the track. Remember, you're not on a balance beam, so I'm not bringing it behind the other foot. It's just straight back in that same line. Slowly lowering the heel. Go ahead and pause. Observe what's happening in this side. Do you feel any kind of a stretch? I'm going to ask you to do that tractioning again. So I'm squeezing with my legs as if I'm trying to draw my feet towards each other, but I'm of course not moving them. I'm static with the feet. I'm just using all the muscularity into my legs and pelvis. Squeezing and releasing a few times. And then relax it a little bit and notice if you're feeling a great stretch. If not, scooch that right foot forward a little bit. Use your inchworm toes and pause. Power back through that left thigh. If you'd like to deepen that front body stretch, reach those arms up. Deep, deep breath. And scanning. What are you feeling in the left leg, front and back, upper and lower? When you're complete, ready to come out, hands to hips, bend the front knee, and come on back. Whew. All right, little ragdoll. Let's bend the knees and just fold forward. Give the body a little yes shake, a little nose shake with the head. Deep, deep belly breath is wonderful here because it'll generally register right up into that low back. And as you are ready, root and rise. Nice long inhale. Exhaling, prayer hands. I'm going to bring us into a warrior flow here. You're welcome to go into another flow of your own of coming into downward dog, taking your right leg flying and bringing that forward to crescent lunge. We're going to start off in standing crane. So again, I've got that nice pushing the earth away, hands lightly pressing, awake. Bend those knees and get, again, all that stuff we were working in chair, the neutralness of the legs, the nice tucked tailbone, lifting that left knee, standing crane. And notice if your weight shifts to the outer foot of your standing foot, you might need to think again about like squeezing a block between so that you're really working that inner line. Good. And as you're ready, as slowly as you can, shifting back into your crescent lunge. Take your time, scooch as much as you need to then get that front knee directly over the heel. Good. We're going to add a little fun thing here into our warrior series today. So as you're ready, I'm going to have you plant that left foot now into warrior one. And that just means that it's turned out a little bit, the toes are. So if my front right foot is noon, that left foot is pointing maybe 11 o'clock. And I'm going to straighten the legs initially, although I don't want them locked. So kind of maybe straighten them and then just kind of engage the muscles so that the knee is slightly bent or just out of lock. Good. And then I'm going to ask you to hinge at the hips. Make sure that right hip is forward, left hip bone back. Nice long spine. This is a balancing pose. If this is too much, you could do this with like a chair in front of you so that you can kind of support part of your body weight but enjoy this stretch. So I'm getting a lot of effort in the legs and also a lot of stretch. I can feel it way down into my left calf. I'm getting it in my right ham. And if you're able to connect with the floor, you might do that. You could also be connecting with the shin, never pressing on the knee. One more long breath. And then as you're ready, bend that front knee and come up. Exhaling, let's open it to Virabhadrasana 2. So now warrior 2, that back foot comes 90, and I'm going to pulse a couple of times. Whew, a lot of leg work. Some fun places lighting up. All right, we're going to just settle here for a couple of breaths. And once again, I'm going to imagine that I'm First, try to stretch the mat, and then I'm going to traction and imagine I'm trying to shorten the mat. So I'm squeezing my feet towards each other. And I don't want to do any of this so aggressively that something hurts or that takes me out of alignment. So make sure that you're not doing something funky like bringing your knee to the inside or anything to make this happen. It's just a slight hello, waking up. On your inhale, sweep up through that right arm. And on your exhale, lateral stretch. Elbow to thigh is a starting point. You might go to the floor with the hand or the block, but we really always want to check first that we're in alignment. So shoulders anchoring, rib cage towards the sky, neck wherever it's most easeful. And then I want my head back in alignment with the spine. Most of us, it'll tend to be kind of forward unless we check. So that top shoulder's stacked, I'm flat like I'm between two panes of glass. And if it feels appropriate, take that left arm, reach towards the wall in front of you. And this is that marvelous side body stretch. But I'm going to now take it into some rotation. So I'm imagining I'm kind of making a big circle with that left arm, maybe following it with my vision. Oh, balance challenge. And then plant the hands, pause, come onto the ball of the back foot. I'm going to work my right foot a little over to the right to open up with that right arm. Now if this again just isn't working for you, it's too far to the ground or what have you, you could be holding on to something, or you're coming onto your knee like so. You could also go deeper onto the knee with that left elbow into our classic prayer hands. Again, challenge with the balance. Keep squeezing right hip bone back, left hip bone forward. So whatever version you're in. One more inhale, exhale, rotate more deeply. Good. Deep breath in. Plant the hands. Exhaling, see if you can reduce the swoosh. Lift that foot. Inhale, exhale, sigh into your downward dog. Opportunity for dog series. If you'd like it, you could also go into a resting pose so that you're nice and fresh for our next warrior series. Otherwise, inhaling, plank. Exhaling, chaturanga. Chest precedes the hips. Inhaling, either cobra or upward facing dog. And upward dog, remember, power those thighs to the sky, just like you did in plank. Exhaling, press back. If you want to hop to the front, and if you're doing dog-leg flying, you wouldn't do that, of course, but if you're doing standing crane with us, and you want to hop to the front, try bending the knees, inhaling and looking forward, kind of just beyond your hands. And on the exhale, I'm going to draw my belly into my spine to help me go up and hop. Then inhaling, root and rise. Exhaling, prayer hands. Good. Pause and check in with your breath. Check in with your heart rate. And it's so fun to dial in and notice all the amazing sensations and all the amazing capacity in your body. Soft tongue, just the tip of it connecting. Soft ujjayi breath. Light pressure hand to hand if you're in the standing version. If you're in downward dog at this point, make sure that those hands and arms and shoulders are super stable. All right, standing folks, we're going to take that right knee and lift it, standing crane. And we're going to try and imagine what's happening in that left leg. If you're not sure, return to neutral. Slowly lift that right leg and notice that we want that left leg to stay pretty strong and neutral. So if it feels like it waved a lot, imagine that you're kind of squeezing those inner thighs, then lifting. Slow, controlled journey into your crescent lunge. You can even kind of pause in a balancing pose on your way back. And holding here, squeeze that right hip bone forward, left hip bone back. And you should feel this like incredible strength in the inner thighs. It should make you feel, very stable, very connected. All right, and we're going to take that back foot now and drop it into warrior one. So if my left knee is at noon, that right foot is pointing at, say, 1 o'clock. And I'm going to straighten the leg here initially and just kind of traction. Imagine I'm shortening the yoga mat. And then I'm going to bend that knee a little bit. You can bend it a lot if you want to, but I'm going to allow myself to easily hinge forward at the hips. Now remember, you don't have to go a certain distance, right? This little bit of a hinge might be plenty to light up some interesting stretches in the left leg, maybe even to the back to the right calf. Keep pushing from the back foot through the crown of the head. And you can support a little bit on the shin, never on the knee. You could use a chair in front of you. You might be able to drape over that leg a little bit. And when you are ready to come up, bend that knee at the front. Good. And opening up to your Virabhadrasana 2 now. So that foot goes 90 degrees, that right foot. And I'm going to just pulse a few times. Hello, what's in the hips now? We've sure been activating a lot. And as we settle for Warrior 2, so important that that back foot is completely anchored. If I'm on the inside of my foot, I've lost all the power through here that is supposed to be rooting. So we're going to accentuate that now by tractioning. Again, I'm going to imagine I'm stretching the mat, and then I'm going to squeeze to shorten the mat. And this should allow me to notice all those muscles that are a part of my ability to root. And then let that kind of tractioning soften to just a general awakenedness, stability, if you will, through the whole low body. And on a long inhale, reach up. You might straighten that front leg. And exhale, flow forward to your lateral stretch. Elbow to thigh is a starting point. Stack the right hip back, the right shoulder back, the ribs up, and the shoulders down. I know, so much, right? And then if you'd like, reach that top arm towards the wall in front of you. Again, you might be doing this with your left hand on the floor or a block. And then as you're ready, let's spiral. I love letting my chest and head and vision follow as I go up towards the sky with the arm. I find it's just a marvelous stretch. And it's kind of a fun balance challenge. I'm going to plant the hands, walk that left foot over to the left, steer those hip bones. I didn't mention on the other side, I apologize, you could drop that back knee. So you're in that same kind of knee down lunge. Remember, you're not back here, it's forward as you choose to open up into your twist. Or, again, maybe you are on the back foot. Maybe you're up on the knee, just sort of encouraging the twist. Or bringing the elbow to the thigh for our classic prayer twist. Either way, steer the right hip bone forward, left hip bone back. Let the inhale take room. Exhaling, rotate. And in your own time, release. Try to reduce the swoosh, lift that foot rather than drag it. And one more opportunity for dog series if you would like it. I always want to invite you to incorporate flow, but in this yoga basics class, I don't do a lot of it as a group. We want to be able to have time to focus on more alignment and little details in the body that we sometimes lose when we're in flow. It's a lot to pay attention to. When you're ready, walk your hands back to your feet, and once you're there, kind of shift your weight forward and back, and once again, side to side. And I just want you to take time to kind of notice what's going on in that low body. We did a lot with it. So to help it also kind of unwind and sort of, I guess, smooth all that out, I want to invite us to close. If you've got your block with you, great. Doing a recline with this under the sacrum. If you don't have a block, you could use like a book or even just like a folded up towel, ideally a little bit firm would be great. So as you're ready, please join me. Come onto your back, lift the hips, place that block. And when we take ourselves onto the block and we're draping the legs, ideally you can straighten them. If that hurts, then keep them bent. But we're not in any effort here. So just let the feet kind of flop open. There's no alignment here. I'm not trying to squeeze a block between the thighs or what have you. Just like a big bit of taffy. So enjoy your breath here, massaging as you deepen your inhale. My hope is you'll feel it come nicely into that deep psoas area, lower abdominal right between the hip bones. And this is a marvelous support for releasing low back. So if you find yourself doing a lot of gardening or forward bending work and that part of the body's getting tight, don't hesitate to just, I know people who take their block out with them gardening, with their gardening tools, and just flop down on the earth when they need to release their low back. So I'm going to ask you to notice once you come out of that what your body might need. You might feel like knees to belly would be a good counter pose and stretch for that low back. You might want to go into happy baby. That's a pose that we often do but did not do today. And I encourage you in the coming days, some of us tend to feel things more the following day, and other people it's more of a 2-day delay. But to notice what you experience, if there's some little sore muscles in the butt or the thighs, that's exciting. Hopefully it's all good. And to just notice what's going on there and consider doing a few of these again. Just even that chair with the tractioning or the train tracks is really, really profound for waking up those legs and changing some of the dynamics between the bossy muscles and the ones that are asleep. I hope this felt great. I hope it makes it fun to be in your body the rest of the week with everything that you do. Thank you so much for coming to the mat. If you're feeling deeply relaxed and you can settle in for either a seated meditation or shavasana, I strongly, strongly encourage it. Maybe it's a beautiful day when you're doing this. It is right now as I'm sharing this class with you, and it'd be a marvelous time to just take a towel or a blanket and go lay out on the earth's surface and let the wind and the sun and the leaves whisper you into a deep rest. Thank you so much for being here. If you'd like to join me in Oms, please do. Gathering a long inhale. Om Shanti Shanti. Om Peace Peace. Namaste. I'll see you again soon here at the mat. Thank you.